Messy fish room. I can't stand it. It's been a busy week, so I'm kind of behind on everything, so I'm spending my Saturday playing catch up. So luckily all those guys got their water changed, so they're fine, but all my jars need to be changed today, and every tank on this rack needs a water change today. The ones with the yellow post-its on it need to be reset for spawns. I've got 5 pairs I want to try to spawn. I expect probably 2 or 3 out of the 5 to actually spawn. I've been having trouble lately getting my fish to spawn. It's just something about the winter. I don't know if it's too dry or whatever, but they just don't like to spawn when it starts getting really cold out, no matter what temperature they're actually kept at. So I keep telling everybody that I'm going to do an updated fish room video, and I keep putting it off because my fish room looks like this most of the time. I'm in here working, and it doesn't always look pretty, and you know, when you want to do a tour of something, you want it to look nice rather than what it actually looks like, with cultures and food and all kinds of stuff just strewn everywhere. So I'll take you through a quick tour, and then I'm gonna turn the camera off, crank up some 90s hip hop or something on Pandora, and get to work. So let's see. Down here is my 20-gallon that had my ocelota in it. Sadly, they got sick with some kind of, I don't know what. I think it was internal parasites, but they also got velvet. I'm guessing from stress from the other illness, and I tried to treat them, and sadly they all passed away. So that tank's just kind of been sitting there for like a month, just empty, just some dead duckweed floating around in there. So I'm gonna empty it out and restart it and put in all my baby mystery snails that I have floating around in this tank, so I can open this tank up for a spawn. And then I have mollies that have been hanging out in here with my goldfish that I want to start breeding, and they're not going to breed in this tank. There's my cat. His name's Mallow. They're not going to breed in this tank because the goldfish are going to... Mallow, move out of the way. Sorry. The goldfish will eat any fry, so I need to get them out of this tank and into a tank where their fry will be safe. And I had originally planned to put them in here with my smaller patodi, but the patodi went after the mollies, which is funny because they don't go after the swordtails, so that didn't work out. So that's what's going on in the 20. In the 10s, I've got fry in here. These are show placots. For those of you that follow me on the Moon River Bettas Facebook group, these are assholes babies. And here are my guppies that I'm playing around with. I just culled out all the males and added these 2 new males that I'm told are half black magenta. I think that's what someone told me they were. I thought they were really pretty, so I couldn't find any females, so they're just in with the females I've been breeding, and we'll see what happens. The line I was breeding was more like the wild type guppies or endlers, so I'm not sure what will pop out of these guys. And here are some very slow growing giants. I don't think they're actually going to be giant sized. They just haven't been growing well for me. You can see I let mulm build up, and if you watch my spawn tank video, I let the mulm build up for a reason, and that's to house infusoria for the fry to eat. But I'm not sure. Maybe if I put a flashlight on there, you can see some of these guys. This tank is pretty dark because it had a lot of almond leaf in it, and it's got all this guppy grass. And here's my little Variotus platy family. There's one swordtail. I've been trying to rehome him, and I keep getting people that say, oh, I'll take him, and then never end up meeting up. So he's just hanging out in there. And I've got a pair of mystery snails down there. Let's see, and here is my Betta Smaragdina pair. They've spawned a few times for me, but the fry never end up surviving, so I think I'm going to take them out and jar them and treat them like I would any other normal domestic betta and see if they'll spawn after some conditioning. You can see how pretty the male is. He's just like bright green. But I'm gonna try to spawn them like I would domestic bettas and pull the parents after they spawn to see if I can get the fry to raise up. And here are some survivors from an orange spawn. The spawn wasn't very big to begin with, and I only have about 5 that ended up surviving. Which is sad because I just lost the male that was the father to these guys, so I'm hoping that I get a couple that are worth breeding to move the line on with. This was a dud spawn, and this tank has just been sitting here being cycled by snails. As you can see, it's got a post-it on it so I can clean it out. And here is the pair that I posted the video on, I think 3 or 4 days ago now. They still haven't spawned. Oh, they're chasing them around now. They still haven't spawned, and I actually, you can see the tank's kind of in disarray. The pot's almost knocked over and stuff. I went to grab them out yesterday, and I messed all the, I decided to give them another day, but before I decided that, I messed their tank up. But he built another little nest, and it looks like maybe they'll spawn. Normally I don't give them this long, but I really want this pair to spawn. So we'll see what happens. As I said, this tank has been growing out mystery snails and my tiny Dumbo spawn. I only ever had like 10 of these to begin with, and right now I have 5 survivors because I think the bigger ones ended up eating the smaller ones, which happens a lot if you don't separate by size. And then what's up here? This is my planted fish bowl. It's a 2-gallon drum bowl I got, and I just planted it up. There's a little pet betta that lives in there. Goes to show that you can house a betta in a bowl if you know what you're doing. It's sitting on a heat mat, and he's got a small sponge filter in there and plants. And the water actually stays so stable in this tank that all I have to do is top it off. It actually evaporates fairly quickly. And these 2 tanks are my giant pair that are the parents to the spawn I just showed you earlier. They're gonna have to be going into some large critter keepers or something, so I can use these tanks for spawn tanks. And then this little girl has just been hanging out in here keeping this tank cycled as well. Oh, my battery died. Okay, well, the tanks are done, and now I'm waiting for my trash can to fill up so I can do my jars. So I'm gonna take out some of this Valsinaria from my goldfish tank and try to propagate it in the 20 I showed you guys earlier. There's not as much sand in that tank, so I'm not sure if it's actually going to be deep enough for them to root or not, but I'm going to pull some out because you can see it's just, the runners are going crazy right now. So I'll pull some out. And I like this plant because it's very easy. I don't do any fertilization or anything. I just have a T5 light on here, and then the goldfish provide all the fertilization from the waste they emit. So we're going to try to pull some. I'm not totally sure I can do this one-handed, but we'll try. So you can see, if the fish don't get in the way, the plants put off runners. So a big plant will put off a runner, and then at the end a little plant will sprout up. And sometimes they just keep going. So you can see this one, there's a plant there, and then there's a plant there, and then there's a plant there. And then this big plant in the back, move out of the way, guys. There's one there, and then there's one right here in the center. Then there's another one right there, and then it goes and it ends right there. And so they just keep going and going. So that's really nice, but it kind of makes it hard to pull these guys out because you start pulling one and the next thing you know you've pulled up half of them. So I'm going to use my handy dandy plant tongs and try to pull up some of these. Sometimes you get lucky and they break off. And I don't trim the leaves, I just kind of let them float along the top, and these have some very long leaves on them by now. The last time I pulled a big plant, the leaves were 4 feet long. And this tank is only 16 inches deep, so that's pretty impressive. They just kind of keep growing along the top, and they never stop. Okay. Let's see if I can find more plants. Trying to get this to break off without having to use scissors, and it's not gonna work. I don't have any plant scissors. I wish I did. I wish I had, you know, a nice aquascaping set, but I just have regular scissors. So you just clip it, and then we'll pull these guys out. You can see this leaf, how long it is. It just keeps going and going and going. I don't find that these goldfish eat the plants at all. I do give them duckweed regularly. I grow duckweed in all my tanks because it sucks up nitrates and it's good cover for fry. And so they get duckweed several times a week. And not only is that really healthy for them, it keeps my duckweed population down. And I think it keeps them from snacking on these other plants in here. Alright, well, I'm going to keep going and trim out some of this. I also have this power filter that's been on here cycling that I'm going to be putting on the 20 because I want to take the sponge filters that are in there out and thoroughly clean and disinfect them just to be sure that there's no illness in that tank any longer. I did put a ton of antibiotics in that tank after the fish died and kind of let it marinate. So everything should be out of there, but just to be safe, I'm going to put on a fresh filter and sanitize those other ones in bleach. Okay, fishies and snails are in there. They seem to be doing fine. The filter's going and everything looks good. I'll probably put some guppy grass in there for them because it is kind of sparse right now. But they seem to be doing okay. Got all the jars changed. And right now it's about 5:30, so I've been working for about 4 hours so far. All those are changed. Now I'm gonna get to getting these spawn tanks cleaned out. So you can see I got all the snails out of here, so I'm just gonna do a water change and fill it back up with some fresh water, and that tank will be ready to go. Have to change the label. And the same for those up there. I just squeezed the sponge filters and those two, that's why they're chocolate milk, and the third one's still clear. But I'll get those ready, get that one ready, and then I'm probably gonna go ahead and take these butt heads out because they're not doing anything. So I'll take them out, I'll give them a break for a couple days, and then try them again. I really want a spawn from this pair because they're really nice fish. But for whatever reason, I just have trouble with reds. They just always give me trouble. Either they tear each other up or they just don't spawn. So I might try these guys on a smaller tank next time and see what happens. Alright, I'm gonna try to hustle and get these tanks cleaned up and ready to go so I can go eat dinner before I put my pairs in. So I'll check back in later. Ah, it's done. And it's back to clean again. This will last for about a day. And then it'll be back to how it was when the video first started. But everybody's changed. Everybody's been fed. I have spawn tanks ready. It's about 6:45, so I have a couple hours before I'll introduce the pairs. I already have my pairs picked out. They're just chilling out. Everybody just got fed a bunch of bloodworms. Okay, pairs are in. It's like 10 after 9. So the lights will be going off in about 50 minutes, give or take. So we have show placots. This is Asshole for you guys that follow on Facebook. He's probably my favorite fish right now, and one of my favorite fish of all time, because he's such a huge personality. He flares at everybody. His girlfriend's back there hiding. These guys have already spawned. They're actually the parents to these little cuties down here. Let's see if I can pull the light forward so you can see them. Come here, babies. They've got very pretty colors coming up. And normally I wouldn't repeat a spawn after I've already got fry from a pair, but this spawn is just turning out so nice that I really want to get a larger group of them, because there's only about 20 in this spawn. So that's another reason Asshole got the name Asshole, is because it took me like 3 tries to get that one spawn from him. He kept either not spawning. The first time he beat up his female, the second time he ate the eggs, and the third time he finally spawned and gave me just 20 fry. I'm actually very lucky that I actually got all 20 to survive, because normally I don't have that good of a survival rate with my tap water. For those of you that watched the other plant video, you can see the pots in this tank now. I took it out hoping that these reds will finally spawn. I never leave a pair in this long, but I just keep hoping. He's got his nest built. They're chasing each other around. I just keep hoping that they'll finally spawn, because neither one of them is beating each other up, but they're also not ignoring each other, so keep your fingers crossed. So I have the placots and then the half moons. Then over here are marble copper. Should have cleaned the glass off before I started filming. But you can see the female back there by the sponge filter and the male in the foreground. The male is in between a traditional and a show placot, and the female is a show placot, which doesn't make any difference to you guys unless you're actually into showing bettas like I am. You won't even know what the difference is, but there is a difference. There's a few different types of placots, and these guys are kind of in between because people don't breed them to separate the lines the way show breeders do. So I'm spawning them in hopes of getting traditional placots, but we'll see what actually pops up from the spawn, if they spawn. And then up here we have koi. These guys are traditional placots as well. They're actually pretty good for traditional placots. The male has a few issues. The female's actually pretty decent. And these are 2.5 gallon tanks. And here are Dumbo placots. This is a sibling pair. The mother, or the female, is the mother to the Dumbo spawn I only got 5 fry from. Unfortunately, I lost the male that was the father to that spawn, so this is my backup male, and I'm spawning to get more Dumbos. And then last, this is a grizzle half moon. As you can see, he's spawned before he ate the eggs the last time he spawned. We're hoping that he doesn't do it this time. A lot of first time males will eat the eggs, so I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt and trying him again. And then in the back, the female is like a metallic mustard gas. She's got excellent form though, as does he, which is why I chose this pair. Of course my phone doesn't want to focus. Well, he did have excellent form before his last girlfriend decided to turn him into a crown tail. Hopefully this female will be nicer. You can see these guys are on a heat mat FlexWatt heat tape, I guess you could call it. I call it heat mat. And then the thermostat is set so it heats the water to 82. It's actually a little bit lower than 82, but I just filled these guys up, so the temperature's probably still settling. I'll cover this. You probably can't see it, but there's cardboard in between each of these tanks so the fish can't see each other, because they obviously aren't going to spawn if they have neighbors. So I'm just trying to cover up them so that that male doesn't bother them. I need a taller one. There we go. I keep all my extra cards up here in one of those like kind of specimen container type things. There we go. That's tall enough. Oh, there's my female out. As you can see, they've been chasing around. They've stirred up all the mulm. But it'll settle back down or settle back into the sponge filter. And she's breathing a little heavy right now, but she's not clamped up. Her fins are still kind of open. They're in resting position, but they're not clamped, and she's barred up. So that's the difference between being a little bit overexerted from being chased around and being stressed. She's just out of breath because he's chasing her around. And then these guys, as you saw in the other video. Oh, are you gonna flare at me? These guys have no problem flirting. Let's check in with these guys. Yeah, you see she's hiding back behind the sponge filter, and that's why I don't feel the need to put a lot of hiding spots in my spawn tanks, because I find the sponge filter is enough. Normally, as long as the male loses sight of the female, she can take a rest. So if she has one tiny thing that she can get behind or get under, that's all you need. You don't need a ton of plants and a ton of hiding spots. I find if you have too many, you actually run the risk of them kind of forgetting the other ones in the tank, and then they never spawn. Alright, that's gonna do it for this video. With any luck, I'll actually be able to update you guys on spawns. I have 6 going right now. Right, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3 down here. So hopefully my odds are better. I wanted to get these guys, these red guys, to spawn so I could follow a whole series on raising the fry with one spawn, but they obviously are camera shy because they're not doing anything. So hopefully one of these other guys will volunteer to spawn and raise up some fry for me to document for you guys. Alright, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe and share. I'll try to bring more content as I can.